saying goes from the very beginning. When did I decide to become a lawyer? Well, actually, freaky as it may sound, I announced literally that I want to become a lawyer when I was in 7th grade. It was one of those, exercises they give you in terms of, it was an English class and you have to write what is the kind of career choice that you want to make, etc. And I had written about how I want to be a lawyer. And after the reading was completed, my teacher commended me for the language and then asked me that you seem to have written it with a lot of passion. So do you really intend to become a lawyer, or is it just for the class exercise? And with great vehemence, I announced, no, I intend to be a lawyer, So it's really heartening for me, first of all, that I have sustained and in fact nurtured and grown my passion for law over so many decades. So I am now in my 30th year of practice. So it's been a long journey indeed, from 7th grade to now. But I can tell you, I have really enjoyed every moment of it, not a moment of regret for anything and everything that I've done so far. Because, when we talk about a journey, everybody highlights the positive elements, and rightly so. Why would we want to keep dabbling in the negative part? But I just want to mention here that whenever anybody starts a journey, you will have your ups and downs. You will have your challenges. But that steadfastness, in your conviction, knowing this is what you wanted to do and then sticking by it, is what gets you to a goalpost. So I think that's what I have kind of followed as my journey in life as well as in law. So from 7th grade, if I move on to, I must have been about 19 then, because I was still in college. And I think I was in my 3rd year of law when I joined my senior as an intern. In my time, the concept of internship was not there, as it is mandatory and almost the norm now, right? Not just almost, completely the norm. But I was so clear that this was what I wanted to do. Practice as a litigator in court, and be in law, and even more precise, I did law to practice criminal law. So that was the kind of focus and clarity that I had when I started off. And I joined one of the top criminal chambers. And I hail from the southern part of India, what is called now as Chennai. In fact, in Tamil, we always called it Chennai, and now, and in English as Madras. So I hail from Chennai. So I started at the Madras High Court. I'm part of, my alma mater is the Madras High Court. And I completed nearly 9.5 years there and then moved to Bombay. So I have now completed 20 years in Bombay. So I guess they are kind of on par now in terms of my affiliation. So when I joined my senior, it was a very funny incident because he thought I was in the 3rd year of the final 3-year course. So that's the final year. But I was actually in the 3rd year of the 5-year course. So in our time, the first 2 years would have politics, political science, sociology, etc. And the law subjects will start only from the 3rd year, unlike the current 5-year structure. But because again of my involvement in terms of law, I had done a fair bit of reading, but not necessarily as much as I would have if I had already completed the subjects. So I walk into the chamber and I'm given a brief, and then I'm immediately asked questions about it. And then I had to confess, saying, it's not that I had misled anybody, so using the word confess may be wrong, but I had to tell him that I'm actually in the 3rd year of the 5-year course. And my senior, Shri N.T. Vanamamalaya at the time, or NTV for short, he told me, Nappinai, go away. You're too early. You will just burn out by the time you even finished law. So come back in your final year, it's too early for you. Because firstly, like I told you, there was no concept of internship then. And two, you're also getting into criminal law. So for him, it was all very strange that such a young girl will want to come into criminal law and so early. And then I just stood steadfast and I said, no, I am joining. Today is my first day of joining. I'm not going to go away. And I can tell you now, 3 years of 3 years of internship and 30 years of practice, touchwood, I'm still not burnt out. I love what I do and I really enjoy it. I have in my journey, it started with criminal law in Madras High Court. I've moved to corporate. I've done a fair bit of civil work. In fact, in Bombay High Court, I'm known more for my original side of civil work rather than for the criminal work. That happened because I was specializing in corporate criminal offences. Till date, I handle a lot of corporate criminal matters. That's my forte. And I really enjoy this field of practice. But that also enabled me to handle corporate and civil, etc. With a journey that started with criminal law and specializing in white-collar offences, it was actually thanks to the kind of trust and faith that my clients had in me that helped me to move to corporate and then civil law, etc. So they encouraged me. In Chennai, the practice is like that, and in fact, to a large extent, it's the same even today. Clients will come to you based on what they hear about your capabilities, but they stay with you based on how you perform and what is the trust that you gain, in terms of the way you handle the client and how comfortable they are with you. See, outcomes are not in our hands, especially as a litigator, right? Even with respect to negotiations, I would say for corporate negotiations, and I can tell you from beginnings in terms of criminal law, when I moved to Mumbai, I moved ahead into corporate finance. I was known for my specialization in private equity and debt structuring. And in civil law, I have handled innumerable original side cases, arbitrations. I was part of one of the first, the first batch of mediators who were trained by the Bombay High Court. And I also was part of the first panel of mediators of the Bombay High Court. Thereafter, I have trained as a mediator outside India also, but that's on an aside. But yes, through this journey in terms of starting as a litigator in terms of criminal law to corporate and civil, and constitution of course permeates every other genre. The one thing I have realized is that ultimately what matters is how well you have prepared for a matter and how well you perform, to your satisfaction. Outcomes cannot be in your hand and should not be also really, right? It's somebody else who's deciding the case. So ultimately your skill set lies in how well you present your case. And a lot of times I have faced this question, and I'm sure many generations coming forward also will face this question. How come criminal law? And is it all about, like the one joke, and I don't think it's a joke at all, the one statement which bothers me no end is all lawyers are liars, or people assuming that criminal law is all about committing crimes. Practice of criminal law is not about the lawyers committing crimes, right? It's about the lawyers representing either for prosecution or defense. It's not like we only appear for criminals. So to tag them as criminals before a trial also is unfair, right? So you are appearing for accused, persons who are accused of crimes. So in these kind of situations, the one question that comes up is, can we practice with integrity and honesty? And if we practice with integrity and honesty, can we succeed? And my resounding response for these questions is absolutely yes, you can. Because practice of law is not about subverting processes, not about taking shortcuts. It's not also about misleading the court or misrepresentation. It's about advocacy. It's about being fair and trustworthy. Because I can tell you from my very young age and early days of practice till today, the one thing that I have noticed that has held me in good stead is that quality of trust. If you are able to garner that trust, through your actions speak for themselves. It's not about posturing and gaining trust. It's about being trustworthy and gaining trust. You do that, then I can tell you with absolute confidence that you will succeed. And let me tell you how in terms of two different things. One in litigation and two in corporate, right? In litigation, and I'm talking about very, very early days, there was also this perception that if a very junior person appears in a matter, the judge's assumption will be either that the case is so bad that anyway nobody can succeed. So the junior has been given this option to do shadow boxing, right? This is their opportunity to actually practice and gain some experience. The other extreme is they may think it is so good that nobody can lose the case and therefore the junior has been given this case. I can tell you that since I was with my senior for nearly 3 years before I completed law, for me it was literally stepping from this side of the line, which is to stand behind him and assisting him, to the other side to representing. And I'm really eternally thankful to both of my seniors for the kind of confidence they reposed in me, because the very first day of my practice, I handled a final hearing matter. So when I was appearing, in fact, a friend of mine, a classmate of mine who was behind me was joking, saying, "You're reading the paper so much as if you're appearing." And I just smiled and kept quiet. And later on, she felt so bad because she was still there when I appeared in the matter and she apologized. I said, "No, you don't have to apologize. It's okay." Because she was going by normative behavior, right? So I appeared and the judge's comment was this: "So, ma'am, do we assume that this is a very good case or very bad case?" So I said, "My lords, if I'm appearing, it is definitely a very good case, And then I argued the case and I succeeded. But the judge was such an amazing person. See, we need more judges like that. Whatever the experience I had as an intern for 3 years cannot compensate for the kind of encouragement the person who is sitting on the desk can give you. I really wish and hope and pray for many more judges like this in the future also. So he was such a wonderful person that he went on to say this to me, that normally we believe that the case is either so bad or so good that that's why the junior would be sent. But I can tell you it was a very tough case, and it was because of the way you conducted the case that you have succeeded. Please go and tell your senior I said this, that it was such a tough case and you succeeded because of your efforts. So I was so encouraged with that, and I went back and told my senior, and this has been the story of my journey as a litigator. Be thorough on law, be thorough on facts, and then it's up to the court. You can't do anything. Do your best, and the clients will also appreciate it. They see what is happening and I'm sure they will appreciate it, and they will look beyond everything else, because there is also another concern in the profession about how much face value carries, etc. Face value is what you create for it. And for me, face value means that when I appear for the first time before a judge, I conduct my case so well that next time when my face appears before the judge, they will trust me to conduct my case well. That's all face value has to mean. It doesn't have to be anything else, And I have lived by it and I can swear that it works. Similarly, in terms of corporate, okay, in many instances, and this was actually a case where I had appeared for the target company in an equity placement, and a few months later, the fund approached me to brief me in the matter. They were so confident about my capability, they came to me. And I refused because I said, I don't want to put myself in a conflict situation. Then my client reached out to me and said, no, they are approaching you for a negotiation, which is on behalf of both of us. And therefore, in fact, I am also happy if you are chosen by the fund. And still I refused, because I said that tomorrow, if both of you conflict, then I cannot appear for one against the other. So both of them gave me a waiver in writing saying that we will not expect you to, you have explained all the issues of conflict, we still want you to be part of this. So, one thing I realized after this instance also, and I did all this because that's part of me, this is who I am. I don't do it because I have thought it through and I think something is going to come out of it. When I negotiated, when I drafted for my client, I didn't do it thinking the fund was going to become my client tomorrow. Whenever we are doing a transaction, we as lawyers have to remember that we are not there to only represent our client in terms of, today's generation, or maybe even my generation thinks that, I don't know, they talk about tight agreements and one-sided agreements. So a good agreement can never be a one-sided agreement. It has to be a fair agreement. It's like, I always joke when we start a negotiation by saying it's like a marriage. So you can't have a good one-sided marriage, right? It has to be balanced for it to be a great relationship. So we are just coming into the picture at the start of a relationship. What we do there should not skew the relationship so much that it is going to actually result in failure. What we do should actually ensure the success of the relationship. And that's what I believe in. So whenever I negotiate, I would negotiate keeping in mind the structure of the relationship that the parties are getting into and try and ensure fair play. And that fair play, I believe, is what has garnered me a lot of respect and clients. So this was one instance where the other side actually became my client with the consent of my client. So just to complete the journey. So for the last 5 years, I've been almost regular in the Supreme Court, and now I am primarily in the Supreme Court of India. And I believe that this learnings, which I just shared with you, in terms of trust, integrity, and honesty, that's what is holding me in good stead in the Supreme Court also. And I believe that was the reason why in very, very early days in the Supreme Court itself, I was appointed as amicus curiae or friend of the court by the Supreme Court in a very sensitive matter. So, again, that's all I can say. Success is for you to take, but you just have to take the hard road. It may seem difficult, but finish the hard part, then it is very easy. Everything else will fall in place easily. Because if you take shortcuts now, it will come to bite you in the back tomorrow. So take the hard road, do the right thing, and success again is a very ephemeral term. Just recognition and doing what you enjoy the right way is the ultimate goal that you could possibly aim for. So in my journey over the last 30 years, I have worn many hats. As a practitioner in court, a litigator, as a writer, I've authored a book, and I have a few more books that are on its way. I keep writing often for various publications, including online publications. And as a speaker and then a trainer for, I started off in fact with police and then judges, armed forces, etc. So I wear many hats and I've been involved in various lot of things. And yet I took time out recently to start this non-profit called Cybersaathi or Cyber Friend. And the whole intent and purpose of Cybersaathi was to share all my learnings over these years in a manner where every single one of you will be at least empowered to the extent of being a good friend. First to yourself, to keep yourself safe in the cyber world, and also to your friends who will approach you for advice. Because one thing I've noticed as a criminal lawyer and now as a cyber law specialist is that whenever somebody is in trouble, the first person they reach out to is their friend. And in terms of what is the takeaway here? See, it's not just being digitalization of law or the legal profession, I call it the democratization of law. Because look at the kind of opportunities that you have today. You can sit wherever and appear in whichever court you want. You just have to be able to get the brief, that's all. If you get a brief, then it's very easy. You don't have to run around, you don't have to worry about travel, etc. The second thing, with everything going online, I find that, the transparency that it brings to the system and accountability, because neither lawyers nor judges can shirk their duty. Both of them know that everything is visible to the world for them to see. So this is a wonderful phase where all of us are accountable for our actions, have to ensure that we deliver on promises. And as I already said, the promises when it is a lawyer is just to do their best, right? It may seem like an easy threshold, and I've not understood why people find it so difficult to meet the threshold. But it's a kind of seesawing threshold. So you will have to still be able to do your balancing act. And the seesaw happens because you are not in control of what the proceedings will, what is the course the proceedings will take. It is contingent on how a judge would take a proceeding, right? So therefore, there is a sense of fear whenever somebody thinks about appearing in court or representing. Ultimately, it's like an exam without an open book. So you will have to be prepared for whatever questions come your way. And if you are, then it can be a wonderful and enjoyable journey. So according to me, this digitization has democratized law in many ways. It has, one, given an opportunity for lawyers to appear in all courts. Two, it has also given many a lawyer the opportunity to showcase their depth of knowledge and capabilities. Look at the number of webinars that have happened over just this 8-9 months, right? So this was unheard of. So I've been, for instance, I was literally one of the earliest to specialize in cyber laws. I've been training judges and police, etc. for nearly 20 years, right? But this was the year when the public and also, amongst the legal fraternity, everybody got to know about a person called Nappinai and her capabilities in cyber laws, her knowledge base, and were able to also gain from it, right? So this is what I mean by an opportunity enabler, because these were things you would not have been able to do with very little physical movement and time management, etc., had it not been for this kind of the new norm of digitization. So all these trends are here to stay. We may not necessarily sit at home and appear in courts next year, but the virtual courts are here to stay. Physical courts and the way they function are also likely to change, because this benefit of accountability and transparency that we have seen over these last few months, I'm sure will encourage courts to also make their proceedings more public, right? So I believe that the way we conduct our lives, be it as a litigator or as corporate counsel, is definitely bound to change. And I do hope it changes definitely for corporate counsel also, because they lead such tough lives. An all-nighter would be a norm for us if we are in corporate, right? Today, we are understanding this balance of work and life. And I would always tell people, please remember, you have only one life, enjoy it while you can, And I have not once shirked work, not once put my personal life or my holidays or whatever before work. And yet, I have had so many holidays. I've traveled a lot. I love traveling and I love reading books. I love movies. I love playing and watching sports. So I have pursued every single passion or interest of mine without compromising my first love and passion, law, right? So I think that balance, which we are always trying to achieve, I think that's something, again, this phase has taught us the importance of, and I'm sure it's here to stay. Women leader. So, the prefix is something that's actually a little alien to me. Indeed, it was a different world when I started my career. And also imagine, I'm starting as a criminal lawyer, which was even more of a rarity, right? But from the beginning, actually I'm saying from childhood till date, I have really not thought about my gender. No action of mine, no decision of mine has been predicated on my gender. I may have been a little bit more conservative, maybe, in the journey because of my gender, but not one decision was taken because of my gender. That much I can definitely vouch for. So my first, take, or my first sharing, I won't call it a piece of advice because it's for each of us to find our own paths, But my first share on this aspect, therefore, is this. One, there is no reason for us to assume that we have to have the tag of women as a prefix for us to identify ourselves in a particular way. We can and should be leaders independent of that, and we are. We are not leaders because we are women. We are leaders because we are leading. And it just so happens that we are also women. The second thing is, we have to stop using gender as a crutch. I quite honestly, not once, and I can tell you that I told you already, I'm not just here to share positive stories. There are a lot of difficult steps in the journey, including of gender bias and gender discrimination and all these words which have become such catchphrases today, mansplaining, etc., etc. Right? I've been there, done that, been through everything. But the wonderful part of the journey was I was completely oblivious to it. I can tell you, I had no clue somebody was trying to mansplain to me. I had no clue somebody was trying to be biased and all that, because I was in my own world. And in my world, there was no gender. It was all equal. That was the background I came from. I have 3 elder brothers and I'm the last and only girl. So I come from a world of men. But I have not once behaved like, I was something separate or different. The catch there is I also did not get any special treatment. It was all equal. Men particularly also have to learn to think gender neutral. And at some point of time, I have been mostly around men who think gender neutral. Not just act, but think also gender neutral. And I'm sure that we would reach that stage where we are not going to lift eyebrows about women holding high positions. India has this fabulous situation where we are not averse to looking at women as, somebody, someone very powerful, very, how do I put it? Not gifted, but we don't think, I'm talking about the Shakti power, right? So we don't look at women as weak or incapable or something. There are enough examples out there for Indians to believe that women are achievers, can achieve and will achieve. A lot of issues have come along the journey. We have to now root out all those prejudices and the negative components and bring it back to a situation where people understand this equality as a norm, not as something that is being forced, but as a norm. So this is my wish list for a future India. If you want any kind of advice or a takeaway from today, you're all millennials. you all believe in upgrading all the time, right? We never live with one phone. In our time, I can tell you, be it clothes or devices, they literally lasted the person's lifetime. You bought everything once in your life. Whereas now, you buy everything once in its lifetime, which may be 6 months, 1 year, few years, that's it. So there is this constant process of upgrading, be it software, be it devices, be it our lifestyle, right? Ultimately, what will hold us in good stead is upgrading ourselves. Most of the time, we are constantly upgrading things around us, and we tend to forget that we have to upgrade ourselves. And that would be my message: to upgrade yourself, upskill yourself, and also pause to introspect in terms of what is most important to you and have that focus. Because if your focus goes all right, then the outcomes will also not be what you intended. And with respect to end goals, never have a fixed goal. That may seem like a little defeatist because you're saying constantly change your goal, but you're also saying be focused. Where does it connect, right? Let me explain it. Be focused and clear on what you want from life, be it your career, be it your personal life, everything. But when you want to reach that goal, right? Once you know you're nearing that goal, keep moving it ahead and push yourself to better yourself. So your focus doesn't waver. I'm just asking you to ensure that your upgrading process doesn't stagnate, because your life is still going to go on. You don't know how much longer you're going to live, and you don't want to become an outdated piece, right? So keep moving that goalpost so that you're always trying to improve yourself. When you keep doing that, you will actually start just enjoying the journey instead of trying to rush through the journey thinking the goalpost has to come closer faster. Because then the goalpost is always going to keep moving away faster and faster and help you to improve yourself better. This is what I look for from me, and this is what I would want to give as a takeaway for you all. And again, thank you all so much for having me here.